If you're a project manager or going after project management roles, there's one skill that you have to be able to master, and that's communicating. If you are a leader, and make no mistake, being a project manager is being a leader, communication is your biggest tool. When I first became a project manager, I used to say that I didn't know what I did all day because all I did was be on the phone and talk, and I had no time to be productive. There was no time for me to sit down and do some actual work. What I didn't understand back then was that communicating was literally the whole point of my job. My job was to align people, to effectively delegate, to ensure people were talking to each other. It was to translate the technical to my clients and to translate the high level to my engineers, and to lead people, which all required communication. And as a baby PM, I didn't understand how critical communication was. But once I started honing in on that skill, leadership really clicked for me. My communication skills really leveled up the more confident I became speaking up, the less afraid I was in displaying those communication skills, speaking up in any room. Once I started doing that, the opportunities really just started being thrown at me. So what I did is I started practicing my communication skills even when I would mess up, even when what I said actually had no value, but I started not caring. I started not taking any of that to heart. I just forced myself to be confident, even though I was terrified, to practice the skills as much as I could. And when I did, I started noticing leadership asking me to join meetings where I could explain things or where I could present things. And then I started noticing them sending me to the project team and the engineers in order to align them with a certain strategy or a certain idea, and then coordinate with them in order to deliver. And then suddenly I was leadership. And it was my turn to figure out who were the really good communicators in my project team that I could delegate to because I knew that they would produce results. So, here are my key principles in developing communication skills, and then I'll also tell you how I use them to leverage opportunities. Number one, clearly communicating ideas or strategies. When I was able to effectively communicate the idea or the strategy that a client had or that the project manager had to project teams, and it would actually produce the results that they were looking for, that would display how effective my communication skills were, because I was able to translate the high level ideas to technical engineers who could produce those high level ideas. And I was also able to translate the technical components from my engineers to my client. And so I was effectively the middleman between the two. And that's always seen as a very valuable tool. So how did I start doing this? Number one, practicing and preparing. Honestly, I would literally sit after a conversation I had, write down exactly what I thought the conversation had been about, and then produce the actionable steps that I needed to explain to whether it was the engineers or anyone about that idea. And then I would practice it out loud with myself just to be able to go to them. And by that point, I knew what I was trying to explain to them so well that it was easy to communicate with them. So write it out, prepare. Use AI if you need help on structuring sentences, but obviously do not use the wording from AI word for word. Otherwise, we're all going to start sounding the same. Continue to use your voice, but if you need a little help structuring sentences, use AI. I definitely do that. And then say it out loud, and then repeat and repeat until you'll come to a day where you won't have to do this anymore. Number two, learn how to connect with people. Authentic connection does not mean oversharing. It just means sharing yourself, not putting up this front that you think people want to hear, but being your authentic self, bringing your genuine self that people can actually connect with. Try not to put barriers up, even though you're holding your boundaries. And a practical way of connecting with people is by putting their interests first, being interested in them first and foremost. They're the most interesting people to you in the world, especially when you first meet them. That's how you build that connection, when you focus on others versus focusing on yourself. Number three, communication plus connection equals influence. In order to be an effective project leader and project manager, you have to be able to influence your project team. You have to be able to influence them into believing in the project, into believing in the goals of the project, and into believing that the plan that you have put in place is actually going to get them to those goals. That's called influence. Once you've built a connection with your project team, and then you're able to effectively communicate your plan of delivery, that means you're going to be able to influence your team to deliver. Number three, Consistency. People have to be able to trust what you say. And in order for them to trust what you say, you have to be consistent in your commitments and you have to follow through in what you say you're going to do. Because people only trust your words at the beginning. After that, it's your actions that matter the most. They have to be able to know that you're never going to throw them under the bus. They have to be able to know that if you've committed to something, you're going to follow through with that commitment. They have to be able to know that they can follow your direction because they know that you're not going to change your mind on that direction unless there's a justified reason, which you're going to communicate with them. Consistency builds trust, and you'll see that trust is actually one of the most important things about communicating. Next up, back it up with competency. I think a lot of people confuse competency with knowing everything about a project, with being a subject matter expert. But the way that I see consistency is really about being able to figure anything out, being able to find the solution to do something and not saying, oh, I don't know how to do that. That's what competency is. It's not knowing every technical detail about the project. It's knowing how to find solutions to the issues of a project. And of course, you're expected to know the components of the project so that you can actually deliver the project. But it is more important to be able to communicate with your project team and your subject matter experts effectively in order to figure anything out. Part of being an effective communicator is being competent in order to deliver a solution, communicate a solution. Are we 6? I think we are. Number 6, transparency turns into trust. Again, there we go, trust, right? You have to be able to communicate your failures and your weaknesses transparently to your team. And being able to respect your team enough to be upfront about bad news and any issues on the project team. If you're a project manager, you want to be transparent about budgets and schedules with your whole team. Everyone should know the project status. And so that transparency really fosters that trust and connection with your team. Last one, body language and presence. I don't think a lot of us connect. I don't think a lot of us connect body language and presence as being part of communicating. But it really goes hand in hand. I think it's remarkable when there's a leader that is so grounded in their sense of self, that stands in their strengths, is able to speak earnestly and steadily, and has such an open body language that you immediately trust them and you immediately say, yes, that's the leader I want to follow. So what can you do to build your own body language and your own presence? It has a lot to do with finding the strength in your voice. Don't finish off sentences as if they were a question mark. Don't start strong and then trail off and nobody can listen to you because you yourself have now somehow communicated that what you have to say is not important. Find the strength in your voice, find the cadence in your voice, in your own voice, how you communicate. Number 2, posture. Being able to have a strong, open posture will help others feel the strength that's coming from within you. And finally, having open mannerism and an inviting body language. If you sit like this, right, now you're the intimidating person or the person that is insecure. That's not what you're trying to communicate to your project team, right? You want to be open, move towards them, nod towards them, have your body towards them, have an open body language, have, what are these called? Mannerisms? Move your hands so that you are able to communicate with them and they feel your openness and wanting to follow you as a leader. Okay, so how did I leverage all of these in order to gain opportunities and land higher roles and land that role that doubled my salary? Number 1, I really use my communication skills during first impressions. When I go to a first impression, I'm not thinking, oh, I really need to impress them with my background and my technical background and I need to bring up all the projects that I did. No, actually, yes, of course, I want to be prepared to talk about that stuff, but that's not the first thing. That's not my priority when I want to build a first impression, a good first impression. What I'm concentrated on is how, 1, I present myself, my body language, right? My communication, how I have strength in my voice, how when I introduce myself clearly with that strength in my voice, and how I am able to hold a conversation to clearly show my good communication skills. That's always what's going to get you that halo effect when someone really likes you and thinks you're going to do a really good job, even though they don't know you that well yet. Number 2, presenting and speaking up. When you're able to give presentations and you're able to clearly communicate whatever it is you're trying to communicate in a presentation, and you're able to speak up in meetings in order to present whatever it is you're going to be doing, you're always going to be seen as the confident and competent person. That's actually why you want to be able to say at least a couple words in any meeting, because it'll really make an impression on people that you are a confident person with leadership skills or leadership acumen. Next up, partaking in conversations with clients. Is that right? Yes. So being able to communicate with a client during client meetings is very important because you can connect with the client, start fostering relationships with that client that hopefully in turn into a working relationship or more work with them, more projects with them that'll be profitable. That's such an obvious, valuable skill that you want to bring to any job. And then my last one is being able to be part of interviews for winning projects. The way that I leveraged my communication skills there was when I was part of a proposal preparation, right? And we're preparing for interviews. I was able to display how well I can respond to questions and think through questions and communicate effectively a response to them on the spot. Once that was displayed, I was asked to join interviews. And again, those interviews turn into projects that turn into a profit, something that's very valuable as a leader. Okay, there are many ways to be able to leverage your communication skills in order to gain those opportunities that will propel your career forward. These are just a few. The real scary part is getting over being afraid to speak up and sounding stupid. Just stop caring and start practicing, really honing in on those communication skills. And keep doing it because eventually it's going to feel natural and it'll eventually turn into great, effective communication skills for you. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.